Hey everybody, it's Triple L, and now let's talk some My Hero Academia, chapter 205. Here we go. Let's do this. Alright, hey guys, great week. I hope you all have been having a great week, and it's good to have you on the video. So let's just start talking about this chapter, but otherwise, let me know if you've been having a great day or, a good enough week. Anyway, yeah, so this chapter, without a doubt, intense. Intensity is the name of the game for this chapter. I think of the battle chapters so far, if we compare this to the previous matches, we had the Tsuyu match and the Momo match. I think this was... yeah, I'd say this is one of the most engaging ones. I think I've really liked the choreography going on with this one, and I've really liked how balanced this one was. It felt really good going through this fight, and it also was just really cool to see underpowered people take on the overpowered people, and we had that with Todoroki versus Tetsu and Ida versus Juzo. So overall, I think this is a pretty good high of the battles we've had so far, and I'm pretty excited to see the other ones. I think they've been getting better as the author's going through them. So even though the chapters are getting shorter, these are still some really good times. I'm very excited to see all of this get produced during the anime. And one last thing that I'm thinking as we're going through this, we started off this arc with me wondering, like, I don't know if the author's going to go all the way with this. And now that the author has gone all the way with this, with giving all these characters their time in the sunlight, I really hope that he isn't dissuaded from doing this again. I really hope that he gets good reviews. I hope he gets some good accolades for doing this. I hope that Hero Academia maintains its popularity for all of this. I want more of this to happen in the future, and right now the worst case scenario is that we don't get this kind of focus on minor characters again. It's a one and done thing. So I want to avoid that situation, and for that end, I really hope that everyone wants him to keep doing things like this. Mind you, while also keeping it balanced with the story, and I think this arc is ultimately going to end with a plot progression, since we have the whole Izuku and Shinso thing coming, and given that All Might's hyping it up a little bit, I think we're going to move a little bit further in that direction. So I think if we get that kind of balance, it'll be fine. Now, the highlights for this chapter, honestly, ignoring the fights, because fights, after a certain point, you can just be like, yeah, that looked pretty great. It was pretty great when Ojiro jumped onto Pony. Fights are always going to be pretty impressive. It's a fighting manga, but I think my highlights are really coming down to characterization for the majority of the characters. Tetsu's characterization, good enough, although there's a problem in there that I'm going to talk about later in the video. Tetsu's characterization was really good. Juzo's characterization, also really good. Shoji had a small moment of a characterization that I felt really bad for him, the part about people always being afraid of him, but still really good. Good throwing it in there. Pony's characterization, also really good. The girl is a little bit ruder than we thought. Initially, we would have thought that she was rude because Monoma was just teaching her the wrong words, but here she just flat out dissed what Shoji looks like, and also dissed Ojiro, although everyone disses Ojiro, so that one can kind of slide. But Pony's a bit rude. And Ida had a great moment, and he got some great accolades from Hononuki, so that was great. I'm so happy for Ida, because one of the things here is that Ida's moves, he isn't featured all that often. Even in this fight, he wasn't featured all that often. He was just a guy doing things, but everything he did was so valuable that I think this fits Ida's character well. I don't necessarily need to see Ida doing all the things all the time, but showing him do little things, like right in the background, and showing those little things to be so critical to the whole situation is a great way to kind of just have the character still gain some respect, or have the character still be admirable without having to have him take up the screen time in the same way that Todoroki has to take up screen time. I think this path that the author has figured out for Ida works really well for Ida, and it's a great enough compromise. We don't need to have the Ida screen time if Ida gets to have critical moments. And previously, I pointed out the thing with Tetsu, and the way he was used with Ida in this particular chapter also kind of just further it along for me in the terms that I think Tetsu here was being a bit risky, specifically because Todoroki and Tetsu pushed the fight into mortal grounds. And it's kind of scary to think about these two are kids, 15 years old, about to fight to the death. I think that was a little bit irresponsible, but it's a bit tough because a theme that's been going on with this fight in particular is that they're training as if this was happening in the real world. And Tetsu echoed something that Ida said that he was going to do things so that he makes sure he can do them when he's in the real situation. Tetsu saying like, well, I'm going to fight you because that's what I would do in the real world. It's just the context of this being a training exercise kind of makes it feel a bit worse for me, only because it's so sketchy. Since the cameras were going off due to the heat, the teachers couldn't properly see what was going on in there. And if one of those two kids had died in that situation because of a mistake, I mean, that's the kind of thing that would kill you away. And I'm pretty sure that if things had gotten that far, Eraserhead would probably have gone in and canceled their quirks right then and there. So this is an interesting situation where you got to talk about the ethics of it, because you should argue, well, is there a line to a training exercise? Because again, I think that by the same virtue of Ida's logic working when he's talking about he has to do things to make sure he can do them when he's in the real world, you know, Tetsu's logic checks out. But right now, Tetsu's logic specifically involves the life of Tetsu himself, right? So when that line gets brought in there, I do think that Tetsu maybe ends up being wrong, only because the context of the situation has changed, and I don't think he was properly weighing that. But it's again, if Hero Academia had a more draconian world where they were more okay with this survival of the fittest type mentality, I'd be okay with it. But Hero Academia has an idealistic world where the kids are nurtured instead of tested for a lot of it when it comes to the UA part. So ultimately, I think I want to say that Tetsu was being irresponsible when he was forcing Todoroki's hand. And mind you, Todoroki also, they're both in a kind of sketchy situation because I think they went too far in this. It only depends on how the author wants to write it. Because from this perspective, because Tetsu's the one that said that he was pushing it to the limits and he kind of implied that lives were going on the line, I think Tetsu's in the wrong. But I'd be very relieved if the author had one of the teachers scolding those two in particular. Just because I think we need to establish how much of a danger that was. And I think there is still a potential for Tetsu to grow here, because now his growth pattern might be one that's relegated more to Tetsu. You got to keep it under control. Like, if you die, what good is that going to do for anyone else that you have to save? And that's where the Ida bit comes in. Ida specifically counters Tetsu when he comes in and he smacks Josu in the face. Anyway, Ida says like, no, priority is you have to rescue the civilians. So right there, you have this clash of priorities, and when you have these clashes between two relatively strong personalities, you can kind of see the weaknesses in the perspectives. And right now, Tetsu's weakness in his perspective could be argued to be that he was too focused on a fight instead of focused on saving people. And then you go back to Juzo. His characterization, he pointed out that he likes his friends a lot. And his thing, I liked him because this was a guy who was aware of his limits and aware of where he made mistakes. So I like when a guy can be earnest like that. And he was also earnest in saying that he doesn't want to bring anyone else down because of his mistakes. But at the end of the day, his action was still one that was intended to help his allies. And I think that's something that Tetsu kind of lost sight of. But I don't think it's in the same sense that, say, Monoma loses sight of something because he just wants to beat 1A. I think Tetsu lost sight of it only because he's embraced his idea of what a hero is, and that being this guy that just goes forward and just endures and just wins, right? I think it's just in a training exercise for Tetsu. I think this was a bit too aggressive. I'm hoping that he gets scolded for it, but it is still really impressive. Super impressive, but just kind of makes the whole situation a bit dangerous. Still, if the author does go all the way and he does scold Tetsu and maybe also Todoroki in the next chapter, I think the author has set up some pretty good writing here, because we're now going in the area of like, this isn't a character being stupid, this is a character flaw. And when you have character flaws, those are things that can be worked for and can be accounted for and can be developed. And that's pretty cool to see. So this is where growth begins. And in terms of the growth, that's also why I haven't really talked about Todoroki too much with his personality. Just because, as I was mentioning last week, when Todoroki is again telling himself that he wants to, he wants what he wants to become, right? He's having his flashbacks. He's having this whole little like flashback to "It's your power, isn't it?" Like, that line that Izuku gave him. It's just the kid is constantly reaffirming himself. And I don't know, if you wanted to like give it a metaphor, you can, because since Todoroki's on fire, you can say like he's softening his body and then he's reforging it into what he wants to become. You could throw that in there, right? Because fire works for that. It's like the forging of a strong blade. It's just Todoroki is a rehash of his previous things, and his character is constantly this reaffirming after he finds some impurity within him. He burns it all away and then reforms. It's just this kind of characterization isn't as loud as the other characters' characterizations, by the virtue that the other character characterizations are new problems. Overall, though, not a big deal. The author did a great job with the chapter. I think it was a beautiful chapter. I think all the characters got done justice except for the spin guy. I think he's the only one, but that seems to be a bit of a pattern where only one character is getting shafted. I don't mind. That's pretty okay for me. But I absolutely loved everything else. Ojiro got quite a little bit, so I'm excited for that. People made fun of him, but I'm happy that someone's acknowledging Ojiro. Overall, great chapter. Great chapter. This is pretty awesome. So everyone, let me know what you thought down below. And yeah, let's call it there. Till next time, I hope you have an absolutely great day. Oh, wait. I forgot. The chapter ends with it saying that it's possibly a draw. It's tough. We know that one person is definitely in jail. It all depends on what Juzo did with Shoji and Ojiro. If they got put in jail, then I think it's on paper Class 1B's win. But it all depends on what happened with those two. We'll have to see how they want to word it next week. But anyway, this time for realsies. Till next time, have a great day.